Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I'm looking forward to my conversation today with guest Keishorne Scott. He and I were together on a relationship summit with a mutual friend of ours, maybe about almost a year and a half ago, and been following his work since. And I know that today is going to be an awesome conversation for anyone who wants to be better in relationship, right? Like we're all trying to do. Any kind of relationship, love. It's hard. We get stuck. We want to be better at it. So I'm really happy you're here. Thank you for sharing part of your day. Please introduce yourself, share with our listeners who you are, what you do, and how you got to being passionate about the gifts that you bring to the world.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a while since we both, shared this stage or the platform or a Zoom platform together. And I'm happy to be here. So thank you so much for choosing me. Thank you for allowing me to be on your podcast. Like you said, my name is Keishorne Scott. I'm a heartbreak coach, author, speaker. I'm online talking about how to heal, how to get over breakup, how to love yourself again. I actually help people kind of heal from relationships that weren't worth saving. Those relationships that, made it hard for you to love you while you're in the relationship. So that's the journey. I've been through my breakup. I've been through my season of pain about 12 years ago or 13 years ago, where, it's hard for me to heal. I think the more years that adds up, the more I forget about, the breakup, more I forget about the parts, that I kind of tell people about. You start forgetting. It was a turning point. That and many breakups was a turning point in understanding that healing is hard. Healing is difficult. Healing leaves you vulnerable, leaves you with low self-esteem, leaves you questioning yourself. And it's hard to heal by yourself, be in that dark, lonely corner by yourself. So I wanted to help people, help people on that journey, let them know that there's still hope. They don't have to be helpless, but they can be hopeful for the future.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much in everything you just said. I have got so many questions that I know if I were, I did just go through a breakup. And I'm in the midst of reconciling that relationship, but the breakup just fucking sucked. It was like a 6-month process of this push and pull of, I love you, want to be with you, but don't know how in a healthy way, but it wasn't my choice. So, I think there's different scales of pain depending on which side of it you're on, if it's not mutual. And there's so many things that what you said in that introduction. So thank you for sharing. And you said you went through a breakup, 12, 13 years ago. And that healing process, I think healing is a word we often hear, but is overused, but not fully understood. So can you first off define for you and for what you work as a heartbreak coach and working with your clients, how would you define healing? Let's just get really clear language out the gate so we can all be on the same page. If I know what I mean when I say healing, what do you mean when you say healing?
When I say healing, I'm getting to a point in your life where you are at peace. The pain that you're healing from doesn't affect your emotional, mental, spiritual state. It doesn't interfere with your faith. It doesn't interfere with your everyday living. It doesn't interfere with your daily habits, your eating, your sleeping, your communication with friends and family. It doesn't leave you stagnant. So when you heal, it adds to your life. It doesn't take away. It actually makes you into a stronger person. And it makes you more clear-minded, because pain doesn't make you clear-minded. Pain and hurt, it makes you resentful. It makes you angry. It makes you revengeful. It just makes you into a person you don't recognize anymore. So when we say heal when you're emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically fit to do life without the pressure of whoever or whatever is absent.
So much easier said than done.
It is very much easier said than done. How people
If
love
only it
easier
were a
said than
one and
done.
done, you and I would
Mm-hmm.
be out of a job.
That's what's so funny? That's the number one comment that I get from people when you put up a post. I'm sure you get it too. When you kind of like preach healing, you preach encouragement, and everyone have, oh, easier said than done. It's not that easy. Oh, I know that. I've been there. A lot of people have been there before. If it was easy, we will be out of a job and we wouldn't be doing it.
Right. I once saw a post recently, actually during the time of my breakup, that said something about how we often think time will heal.
Mm-hmm.
Time does not necessarily heal. The work is what heals. Like if time will heal all wounds, then at some point we would all magically feel better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, time does help, but it's not the key thing. And I know when I was going through my breakup, I didn't feel like I could focus. I felt so disorganized. My sleep was okay, but I was not hungry at all. Like it was, an unintentional breakup diet of just my body feels dysregulated. I just didn't
Yeah.
feel like myself. I didn't feel, forget about the confidence or like, what about my future? I just didn't feel there was difficulty just getting to those day-to-day realities of client work, the
Yeah.
house, making sure that, because I'm used to feeling energized, and it just was
Yeah.
like someone turned the volume down on my energy and my focus and my attention, which was really jarring on top of the heartbreak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
pain on top of pain.
So when you went through your breakup, that kind of woke you up to this being a guide for the kind of work you wanted to do to help others. What were some of the things that you did for your own healing?
I mean, that's a good question. And like we said, it's time, but time doing the right things. You can spend time sitting in one space and that was time. Or you could spend time actually doing something that's going to help you grow. What I was doing is I started working out. I made a list for myself. It was 10 steps for me to heal, for me to get out this breakup, for me to just live a better life, stop crying and being upset all the time. One of it was I had to, I started going to church. So I wanted a better relationship with God. So number one was my faith. Second one was working out. I had to work out. I had to get in shape. I had to look good. I couldn't, stay in my house and just start eating or not eating. And I had to go out. So I started, working out with my friends, started going to the gym more. And number three was a really good one. I had to forgive myself for what I've done in the relationship too. Even though it wasn't my fault we broke up. I mean, it could have been both of our faults, I guess. Initially, I had a role to play in it. So I had to heal from that. And then I got into the deep work. I had to become a better person. I wanted to become a father one day. I wanted to become a husband. So I actually started writing down the attributes that I wanted to change within me to become that, right? And then I started taking classes, started going online, looking at self-help books, and I really started just learning about who I am and who I wasn't. Because one thing that I realized by self-development and working on myself is that I wasn't really a man. I wasn't ready for a relationship. I wasn't even ready for marriage. I was a boy playing games in a man's body, thinking that he was ready, but I wasn't ready to communicate. I wasn't ready to love. I wasn't ready to give a part of me. I wasn't ready to sacrifice. I wasn't ready to provide or protect this woman. So this breakup was actually a breakthrough and a wake-up call for me, so I can become a better person and become the right man for the right woman, because I could not go into a next relationship the man I was or the man I came out of this relationship. So a lot of the steps was self-development, learning how to forgive myself, learning how to love myself again, going to the gym, working out, and I'm finding a support group as well too. I had friends that's going through the same thing, and we used to kind of like hang out together, talk about our pains together, talk about the healing process, vent, be angry, cry, and we were men. We were men crying on the phone. I miss her, and we went through the same breakup. My best friend, one of my good friends, same time. And we're both married now. We're both, happily married. And we talk about it the other day. And we were like, could you believe it? I could not believe it. Pain will rob you of a vision of the future. It will rob you of looking at anything happy. It will rob you.
Yes.
You will never see happiness when you go through pain. So to actually go through it, to actually go through the easier said than done, we got it done,
Yeah.
and you look back at it now and you see it as a big, huge milestone of change in your life. And it's huge. It's big.
And when we can see that as a milestone of change, then perhaps it can soften maybe some of the anger we had, because we realize, shit, that was painful, but there was purpose there. There was something I needed to learn that I otherwise couldn't see. And not to say we've got to be grateful for all of our pain, but when we can make meaning of it, it helps, I think, relate differently to it.
That's important. Yeah, you have to make meaning from it. Something has to come from it. I'm not going to go through this pain just for the hell of it. Something has to give. I have to learn something from it. It has to provide some kind of clarity, and I think that's where the closure comes in with yourself, and understanding that, I need to find closure within me to figure out, like, how did this go wrong? What can I do better? What did I do in it? What's my responsibility? And you have to take self-inventory, because that's how you grow and become a better person for the next relationship. If you continue the bad habits from your last relationship into a new relationship, that's a big problem with you. Now you have to either exit that relationship and work on yourself, or do your best to be vulnerable to your partner and let them know that, hey, listen, something's going on. I don't feel like myself right now, and I need to heal from this before I give you parts of me.
Well, because it's true of wherever you go, there you are. So if you don't take that self-inventory, if you don't take stock to say, what's the co-creation here? What did I bring to this dynamic that I wasn't able to see, didn't want to see, was blind to see, was too painful to see? We will recreate those same patterns.
Yeah.
It's really easy to do.
Yeah.
And then wonder why, why am I in the same kind of relationship? Why do I always find these, fill in the blank partners without recognition? Oh, wait, maybe that's what I'm attracting.
Yeah. Yeah. And you attract these things when you don't heal those things that from your past. You think that it's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes, a lot of times, when people tell us something's wrong with us, we get defensive. Like, my wife used to tell me things that was wrong with me. And we used to argue. I actually just made a YouTube video on 5 things I wish I knew before I got married. And one of it was wishing that I could communicate better or effectively, because I was a poor communicator when we first got married. It was like, why are you talking to me like this? Don't talk to me like this. I'm a man. I'm over here working. I'm doing this, not knowing that there's different ways to communicate effectively to the person that you love. Gentle ways, your tone of voice is so much. And what was crazy is that when you learn these things, it becomes a little bit more, better to navigate.
Yeah. Creates greater intimacy, greater understanding, greater connection. Feel better about yourself when you can actually be there for your partner and hear their needs and not get defensive about, well, I'm doing this right, it must be you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
There was something else that you had said in the things that you did the work on. You thought you were a man, but you were a boy in a man's body. And I think that's often many women's experience. Sorry, guys out there listening, but that's often many women's experience around their partners is, be a man up, right? We don't want to man box you guys, but there also is a sense of emotional maturity that men aren't role modeled, right? The vulnerability, the honesty, the emotional development to express yourself without embarrassment of this doesn't feel manly. So can you speak to that a little bit more? Because I think this is an area where women are socialized differently to be emotionally aware for communication, and men don't have those role models.
Yeah. There's a lot of different
factors. It can feel like I'm being too soft if I'm super vulnerable. Will I not be as manly? Will I not have the respect? Like all the narratives that, we can tell and create stories. So can you speak more about that?
Yeah, it's a lot of different factors that factors into that. It took me a while to kind of lay on my wife's arms or lay on her lap and say, listen, I'm having a tough day, for her to rub your head or give you a massage or kiss you on your forehead or, caress you in that way. And you're like, okay, I'm over here being, trying to get caressed. You got to get to that spot where, as a man, two things. You either get to that spot where relationships would humble you. Either you go through a breakup or a heartbreak. You'll learn the hard way, because love will humble you. Heartbreak will humble you. Losing that woman that was a good woman, it will humble you. Or you learn that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay. It's okay to love. It's okay to love and be loved. It's okay to give and receive love without feeling as if you're stripping away your manhood for that. And check your surroundings, check your friends, because a lot of times, if you check a man's friends, he'll be loving towards you, but as soon as he gets to his friends or he's on the phone, that ain't me. I don't do that. You gotta be that love for your partner, And I realized that I had to be that for my wife, inside and outside, in private and in public. You have to be the same person. And a piece of that, as men, we have to learn how to be vulnerable and okay with us expressing ourselves. It doesn't matter what our past life tells us. We have to go to therapy. You have to heal from it, whatever it may be that's telling you that you can't give, or telling you that you're going to be judged for it, that you're going to looked at as less. No, you are a man, and that's who you are. And if you grow, and if you love, and if you want to hug, if you want to kiss, if you want to do whatever it is, do that without feeling ashamed or feeling as if it's stripping away from your manhood. It's not. Check your surroundings. Check the men that you're around, the people you're taking advice from, the people that you're venting to. And I'm happy that, because there's a lot of men groups out there. There's a lot of organizations now. There's a lot of mixers, events that you can go to, and you could actually be around gentlemen that you want to be like. So step outside your comfort zone. I think a lot of men, they stay in their comfort zone because they're afraid of being hurt too. We all are afraid of being hurt. We're afraid of this not hurting. And I don't want her to play me, because men usually play women. But when a woman plays a man, that's you leave that man depressed for the rest of his life. He will be depressed. But women, they'll bounce back. And they'll say, you know what? I got to heal from this. I got to do better. I'll get a promotion next year. I'll do this. But men, they will appear to be strong, but inside they're hurting really bad.
Yeah. It's funny. You're talking about all these ways for men to be more men. And then you said the word gentleman. And I thought, wow, look at that. In that word is the word gentle. Man. And we don't often think of those gentle traits as manly, but that's exactly what you just described. Like, actually be a gentleman.
Yeah.
Be soft, be loving, be open to receive. And that doesn't take away from the strength that you feel in your masculinity, right? Two different aspects of self. Yeah, you mentioned how relationships can be incredibly humbling. And that has been a big piece of mine and my partner's journey through repair and deciding to reconcile, was we have both had to get super, super, super humble. Because it's so easy in relationship, and especially when there's challenge, to externalize it.
Yeah.
But, the extent to which relationships are a mirror, they hold up to us every single thing that can so easily turn into a projection. But when we can have the humility to sit with the discomfort of, oh shit, I did that. Wow. Okay. If that was hurting you and I didn't realize, let me really look at that. It takes a lot of courage to look at yourself.
Yeah. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of grace too. We don't extend grace to people, knowing that, I want to give you room to be yourself. I want to give you space to make mistakes, and I wouldn't judge you for those mistakes. But I'm trusting you enough to learn from these mistakes so you won't repeat these mistakes again. And we have to offer people grace because we want people to offer us grace. And when we make mistakes, and we will mess up. And I tell my wife, and all the time, we're human. As long as we're loving you, I'm going to fail you. I'm going to fail you at one point. But it's how we bounce back from that failure, how we respond to failure, is what's going to make the relationship either vulnerable or strong. It's either going to expose his vulnerability or make it stronger, so we can continue to love each other, so we can raise our daughter, so we can build a family, we can build a strong foundation.
Yeah. What do you say when people say, how do I know if this relationship is worth saving?
I mean, it's not, because you question it. Once you start questioning if it's worth saving, you know it's not. Because when you've given it your all, when you've poured and you've told this person, or you've tried to fix it, or you guys went to therapy and you guys had conversations about it, and you find yourself repeating yourself like, does this person get it? I love you. I'm trying my best to fix this, but it's not working. You got to give them space so they can fix it, so they can fix themselves. You have to give them space. One thing that I really, really go against is trying to fix really big problems while still together. It's hard. It's
Can you give an example?
I would say probably like one of the biggest examples is probably infidelity, or infidelity, abuse, any kind of abuse,
Right.
any kind of relationship where you feel as if you can't be yourself. You're forcing yourself to love your partner. You're forcing yourself to show up in this relationship. You might need to take an emotional break for yourself, a mental break, because you'll probably break down in that relationship.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to bounce back when you break down in a relationship while you're still there. So I think one of the best things that you have to do is that you have to separate yourself from that environment. Not that you don't love the person, but you love yourself more in order for you to keep giving yourself to this person. And I think a lot of times in relationships, we start to love people more than we love ourselves. And that's why we stay longer than we should have, is because we're trying to save them. You're trying to save the relationship when it's really, you gotta go. You're anytime you kind of try to save people or give them more than you should, you're actually depleting yourself. You're actually saying, you know what, I deserve less, but you deserve more. That's why I'm fighting for you. So we have to get to a point where we do that.
And that's such an unhealthy dynamic, in recognizing where you're self-abandoning to rescue the other person from their discomfort or pain, only to be causing yourself more. That's never going to be a good dynamic. Yeah. And I know in my recent situation, like, we had to completely lose it all.
Yeah.
And have, to some people, it felt like a really short time apart fundamentally, but both had started to move on, to only help realize, wait, like, no one's going to be perfect. How can we now rebuild kind of from scratch, knowing that this love and connection is so strong, but the space allowed a breakdown of the patterns to be able to see them. Sometimes you need that distance. You can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. One thing you said just now that was really good is that, sometimes you need to rebuild. And I think people, they try to fix, but sometimes you don't need to fix things. You need to rebuild it, because it's you need to rebuild it with new soil, with new infrastructure, with new bricks, with a new mindset. And I think that's how you build relations. That's how you rebuild anything that's been broken. You try to fix it and say, hey, how do we fix it? No, you're going to fix it. It's going to break down again. No, demolish every single thing and rebuild it with new communication, new trust, new love, new vulnerability, a new communication system. How we're going to start communicating after this. Are we going to check in? Me and my wife, we do weekly Wednesday check-ins to talk about any single thing, right? December 31st, right before January 1st, we say, hey, do you want to do this again another year? Let's do this again another year, right? Because you got that. You want to check out? You want to check out? Or I'm going to check out. Or you want to do this, or am I doing a good job? Sometimes we ask these questions on Wednesdays at our weekly check-ins. Am I doing a good job? Or where can I pick up a little bit more? Am I being a good husband to you? Is there anything that, and she will tell you straight up, but listen, you had me with Chloe for 2 days, and I was sick that day, and you was on your computer all day. You can't be doing. And I'm like, you know what? You was right. You were feeling sick that day, and I was on my computer working, sending out emails or speaking to my assistant about stuff. And I could have did that in the morning, and I could have, attend to you. So, relationships are so complex, but you learn so much about who you are and the things that you do. And it's like a beautiful, messy, I don't want to do this, but then I do want to do this. Do I really want to do this? Should I be single? Would it be better single? You start thinking about these things, and people don't like to talk about this. Sometimes you'd be like, I wish I walk past my wife and say, I wish I was single, and then she walked past me. You want to give away Chloe? And I'd be like, I want to give away right now. I just live my life and go on vacation. But there's truth behind that. It's joke, but it's truth behind that. Of course, I'm grown.
You gotta honor it.
We know that having a child means that we can't just pick up and go to Florida, or go on vacation or go to somewhere that we don't want. But, like you said, every stage of the life is beautiful, and would I want to do it over again? No. If I did it over again, I'd probably be more strict with bedtime. Honestly, I didn't know how important that was because she still sleeps with us. But other than that, you got to know how to love your partner. You have to know how to read them, and you have to know whether it's worth fighting for or whether just letting it go.
There's so much depth in everything you just said. A couple of things I want to point out is, as a therapist, I've been trained in the Gottman's work, John and Julie Gottman, who have been scientifically studying relationships and marriage for over 40 years. And they say in their research that 2/3 of relationship problems can't be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally 67% of problems do not have a solution. So how might we respond differently to our challenges if we realize, can we agree to disagree and then let go of the anger, resentment, or the self-righteousness to think, well, but we have to fix this. And it's really about negotiating, knowing this can't be solved. How can we move through this differently? What are our ways that we can respond versus react? How can we be flexible or shift our communication or try different, not try harder, right? Like that's an astounding statistic to me.
Yeah.
And if we all knew that, maybe we could just give ourselves a break a little bit more.
Yeah.
That we can't.
A lot of people like to fight for things too much. We like to start arguments and fight for no. We're not going to fight for no. If I want to argue with you, it's going to be something that means something. Something that's God. You don't. Especially you have 2 children.
2 daughters. Yeah. Teenagers.
And then you're not going to fight with your partner consistently, knowing that you got to raise these kids too, and you got to do. I'm not going to fight with you. We got bigger things to worry about rather than to worry about these little things. We can talk about it later when they go to sleep or something.
So I want to go in a little bit more too about the weekly check-ins, because this is something that I kind of prescribe to all of my clients, because especially as a therapist, another interesting statistic is couples generally wait 6 years into relationship problems before seeking help. And again, an astounding amount of time to be living unhappily. And within those 6 years, anger and resentment build and patterns get really well established that feel impossible to change, right? So one of the best antidotes to that is to do a weekly check-in. So can you talk a little bit further about, for someone who says, okay, I really need to do that, but where do I begin? What kind of questions? How do I handle if my partner says something and I just get really defensive? Like, can you just speak a little bit more to the benefit, but also kind of like the structure, like a how-to on those weekly check-ins? I think it's incredibly important.
I think for the weekly check-ins, you have to see a therapist as well. You need someone else there. So when you guys can't navigate through certain discussions or conversations, you could always bring it back to a professional who is not biased and right there to help you both. So that's huge, because we do have one who we also check in with. And but we're at a point now where we can do our own weekly check-ins without having a big argument there. Where you guys start jotting things down during the week. Jot some stuff down. You don't have to start with every week. Start with every 2 weeks. Half of the times when we start with every week, we just talk about certain things like it's going on, like Chloe or school or, random stuff. But it's a good time for us to communicate, disconnect from social media. And the check-ins include also like playing a game of Uno first before we start, or what's that game? Snakes and Ladder. We got that game too. We play that, or we watch an episode of a show and then we start our conversation and we end it with something fun as well too. But when you have these conversations, you come with questions, you come with concerns. You don't come with anything like bad, like, oh my God, I felt like this way. We just come with respect and just talking about certain things. It don't have to be little things that you can talk to in passing. It's just about, weekly checking. How am I doing? How was the week? Okay. You were a little upset on Tuesday. What was going on? Or did I do something that time? Or we don't really hold it. Before, that list used to be long. I'm not going to lie. In the beginning, it was, you did this. It's because in passing, we never communicated about it. But as you start getting older now, when you start reading your partner, you start asking questions while you're walking in the kitchen, while you're going downstairs, you start talking more. So when you start talking more, you have less things to write down in the paper. So now we realize that the communication, when you talk about things in the moment, we start talking and having communication and dialogues about certain things right there, instead of waiting to talk about these things. That's when we knew that, I don't got nothing to talk about today. You sure? I don't got nothing to talk about either. Let's continue watching the show. All right. And then, we continue to do these things. So I will, for new couples, what I'll do, have 3 questions. How was the week? How you feeling? How did I make you feel this week? What could I've done better this week to make you happy? What didn't I do this week to make you not happy? What would you like to see from me more? Things like that. Just create some general questions and start from there, and then you can start building your own remedy or your own system.
I love that. And the key is to not be defensive in the response. Because then it kind of shuts down. I often will say, support the behaviors you wish to continue to see in your partner. Mm-hmm. So, validate, be so grateful. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for hearing me. Because that's part of the challenge in these check-ins.
Yeah.
And, it's especially couples who have children, is so much of the interaction, and it's to no one's fault, this is just the busyness of life, it becomes transactional. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So much of our interactions are who needs to be where, what time, the chores, the bills, the details. And we forget to be interpersonal in relationship, on a emotional level and a spiritual level. Yeah. And a sexual level. And, Esther Perel, she even says, schedule sex, put it on your calendar.
I was actually going to say that to you just now too. Yep.
Yeah, because we say, I'll you're the most important person to me, but yet I'm not making any time for you. Well, it doesn't really feel very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was going to say that too. Like after you have those conversations, those weekly meetings, you have to show some physical, something physical. You have to kiss, mm-hmm. You have to have sex, do those things. Because imagine having a really good conversation and you guys are talking like, okay, we did good today. All right, let me reward you now. Let's reward each other. And the thing about it, you can reward each other with sex, with physical, give a massage, right? Say, well, let me give you a massage, each other, whatever it may be. Maybe it's her night, maybe it's your night, and do these things, because those things will make you feel so good as a couple.
Yeah. And for those couples or people who are listening in your relationship, you want to try this and it might stir things up. One of the things I'll recommend to couples is to practice one of 2 things: non-sexual physical touch, like mm-hmm. a foot massage, something that can just build some safety. If our nervous system has got a little activated, we need to regulate it a little bit.
Yeah.
But one of the things so many couples don't do, and this would be a great thing for before or after those check-ins, is to just breathe together. Just regulate your nervous system. And I've often suggested to couples to sit back to back and breathe, because sometimes it can be too vulnerable to look at each other or to face each other. But when you can just align your bodies with your breath, it helps greater connection. So either before or after those check-ins,
I'm gonna try
it. Non-sexual. Yeah, it's powerful. It's really powerful to just, or if you sit face to face, you can sit cross-legged and put your forearms on each other. So your elbows, you kind of put your arms out from your elbow and just kind of rest each other. And that sort of non-sexual physical touch, again, can regulate the nervous system, make you feel more connected, can disarm defenses, can release anger, can let go of tension, allowing a space to be more open to receive. Mm-hmm. So just to add, to those intentions, I think sometimes we need all the help we can get.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. And I like what you said. The non-physical attention is really good, because sometimes I'll be on the computer and my wife will just walk next to me and she'll just touch my head or something, or and then walk away. And even that moment, it feels like, it feels.
I can better. Exhale.
It's just a touch, or she's everything okay? Yeah, and now my daughter does it too. I said, hey, Dad, everything's okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. It used to feel creepy before. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Something's going on. But then you start saying, you get used to it. Yeah.
I love it. There's so much value in consciously taking the time to build a healthy relationship. And in order to get there, it requires to heal from whatever previous relationships that we've been stuck in. So, I mean, we've been covering so much area here. And I think for so many couples who are bringing past pain, past hurt, past resentment, past anger, projection from a previous relationship, how do you work with the people that you see that are continuing to project it all? Any advice you have for those who are like, haven't really resolved the past relationship, but they're really committed in this new one? What would you say for that?
I would say, and a lot of people, they love to bring, baggages and issues. And now the person, like, think about it, the person that you're with now probably just healed from a relationship and now they're in a better space. But now you're projecting all of this anger or resentment onto the person, having them relive maybe memories or triggers that they've been through. And it's unfair to that other person. If you know that you have some unresolved trauma or issues, I'm big on therapy. Go see a therapist, go see someone, go speak to someone, go have these conversations and understand that the person that you love, I'm not saying that you're not supposed to be no pain or no anything going into the relationship, but don't bring past problems and past relationship dramas into a new relationship. It's supposed to be brand new experiences, new love with this person, new connection. And a lot of times that's why a lot of some relationships don't, what's the word, cultivate into the way it's supposed to. It's because the person's like, okay, well, I'm loving you here, but then you're over there. I need you here, but your mind and sometimes your body, it's elsewhere when I'm here and I want to love you and I want to give you the love, but it's hard. So you have to take a time out and realize you're playing with hearts. And I don't think people understand that. You're playing with people's hearts. You're playing with their minds. You're playing with their soul. You're playing with their mental health. You're playing with their peace. And it's not fair to drag people along, have some false intentions, not heal and bring your problems into other people's lives because you don't know how they respond to drama or hurt or pain. And then when you start talking to this person about your issues and your pain and what you're not healing from, it might trigger this person back to where they came from. And now they ghost you and they leave, and then you're wondering why. It's because you were toxic. You started reminding them of their pain and their hurt, and they can't, and they've spent too long trying to heal from something. They're not going to go through it again. So you have to seek help, initiate some help before you get into any relationship. Be friends. Yeah. And if it's real, nothing's going to take that away. But I need you to get into a safe space, a healthy space before you give someone else your heart or be responsible for someone else's.
Absolutely. That requires so much self-awareness. And that was something that I used to ask in my relationship, having that awareness when there was a trigger that would come up is, is this about me or is this about your ex-wife? Is this about me or is this about your childhood? Like, what's actually coming up for you right now? Because I don't actually think it's about me. I think there's some previous wound that's being triggered. How can I be more aware of what those are so I can be mindful of those triggers, but then you need to take accountability and responsibility for how you deal with those, right?
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's amazing any relationship ever works out.
It is. It's like, wow, like I've been in this for this long. It was like 7 years. Like, whoa, are we still doing this? I guess so.
Yeah, there's so many factors that go into it. I love talking about relationships because I think it truly is a skill and a muscle you can build. Because I've always said love isn't enough. And yet we think love is enough. But no, there's like actual skills and tools to strengthen what's already a loving relationship. It doesn't mean it's a healthy or a strong relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
So if people want to find you, what else do you have going on? How can they work with you? I know you have authored a book. Tell a little bit more about some of your resources and how people can learn more about how to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could definitely, go on KeishorneScott.com. I'm sure that my name and my link is there. That's KeishorneScott.com. And that's my social media for all handles. I have a lot of books on my website. You can go check out the books on there. Books on healing, books on love, books on relationships, just to help you build relationships, heal, and cultivate a healthy relationship with yourself before you give someone else your heart. And I have my podcast that's actually starting back next week, Your Love Experience. where we have a lot of guests just to talk about their love experiences, their stories. A lot of people got some juicy love experiences. A lot of people got some sad ones. But you can learn from everybody's love experience because everybody have a different walk and a different experience on love. So that's huge. Other than that, just follow me on social media for some really good videos and follow me on YouTube because I'm starting to be on YouTube now. So I want to be a YouTube person to get my subscribers up. So subscribe. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and these tools. Hopefully people who are listening can really take some stock in their own relationship, whether they're single or partnered, in understanding where have I not healed, where maybe I thought I did, where could I do some deeper work in my current relationship to build greater, deeper connection. So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, everyone, I hope that this conversation spoke to you. If it really did, I would love a rating, a review, a share, so we can spread the message so others can journey forward in healthy relationships in their life. And other than that, thank you so much, Keishorne, and I hope you all take care and be well.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat. Visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.